Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we're going to have fun today because we have got 3 guests on, and they're all absolutely fabulous experts in the area of pregnancy and parenting after a loss. And so interested because I'm very interested in marriage and family work and how families are impacted by pregnancy, loss, stillbirth, all that kind of thing, because people don't talk about that a lot, how the family is after, how the kids are after, and what kind of interventions can be done. So as I said, we have 3 people coming on, and one of them, I believe, is in Ireland.
Hi there, how are you? Joining you from Cork in Ireland today.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
The other 2 are in Minnesota. So Heidi, you want to introduce our guests and our show?
Sure. As you said, today we have Dr. Margaret Murphy and then Dr. Joann O'Leary and Lynnda Parker from Minnesota. And they are all experts on getting through the loss of a child. And they have co-authored the book, Different Baby, Different Story, Pregnancy and Parenting After Loss. And they also speak nationally and internationally together. So welcome to the show.
Thank you both.
Now, you guys have been involved in this area for a long time, right?
Yes, Lynnda and I started a pregnancy after loss weekly support group 35 years ago, and we have been doing work in this area for that long. And what we have, and we've developed a prenatal attachment model based on what parents have talked to us about in the groups.
Most of what I know, I learned from listening to parents week after week, going through the pregnancies and their parenting experience.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit for our audience. I know they've had these losses, and how does prenatal loss and impact families?
Well, that's a really it's changed forever by the parents, the siblings alive at the time, and the grandparents, because I also do a grandparent group for Star Legacy Foundation, and there's such a ripple effect. Every father I interviewed said, "You're the first person that asked me how I was."
Wow.
And some of the men cried more than the women, and I often interviewed the women first, and they would go on and on about, "My husband's so supportive, he keeps me solid." And they would say, "I'm scared to death, but I don't let her know."
Mm. So
it's
now this is when somebody gets pregnant after they've had a miscarriage or a stillbirth, then they get pregnant again.
Yes.
Okay, because people don't really focus on that it is really traumatizing the second time around.
Joann and Lynnda are really pioneers in this area of work, and they were really my heroes. I mean, I came, I suppose, later to this area of research in doing my doctorate, and I came after voraciously reading all of their work in this area. And my own background is as a midwife and as a nurse, and I was really shocked clinically because the assumption was still at large, and is still at large, that when women are pregnant again, that they should be just very, very happy. And unfortunately, amongst healthcare professionals, that is still the predominating rhetoric. That pregnancy after a stillbirth or a loss, is something that should be celebrated, and that women should be just getting on with their pregnancy and be delighted to be pregnant again. And that's often, a myth that is perpetuated within society as well. And it's only really in the last couple of years that people are looking at the work that Joann did and Lynnda did a few years ago and saying, actually, hang on a minute, maybe this isn't as straightforward as we first thought, that actually what happens to women and their experiences of loss has an impact in the subsequent pregnancy. And I think that's very important for clinicians to be aware of.
You're normalizing this for me right now, that what I felt is okay, what the husband felt or the family felt is okay. So now what I'm wanting, okay, now you've normalized it. What can I do to deal with it?
Lynnda and I, in our weekly groups, focused on helping with their anxiety. Anxiety is a given in the next pregnancy, and actually our fourth author, Jane Warland in Australia, talks about to try and take away their anxiety is asking them not to breathe.
Okay.
The other big issue is they're so afraid to embrace this new unborn baby that they hold back attaching. And that's why we've developed a model of how to talk about the unborn baby. Because people will say in group, oh, I don't want to write to this baby. I don't want to even say anything out loud. And Lynnda and I would always say, but the baby's already here. The baby's already hearing what you're talking about and saying. And that really opens them up to, oh, okay, it might be okay for me to do this. It's huge. Nobody believes they're going to have a living child till it's in their arms. No.
Joann made a good point. You can't tell someone to stop being anxious.
No.
Yeah, ask them not to breathe. I mean, it's normalizing their anxiety is so, I think, incredibly important.
What we found as well through our various, research studies is that, normalizing the anxiety is hugely important for women, and helping them to develop their own coping strategies. Because one of the women that I interviewed in one of the couples, she was very logical, and she was saying, I know what I want. What I want is my baby to stick her hand out of my belly and to wave at me, and that's what I want all the time,
Right.
and even when I'm lying on the couch, and she hasn't moved for a few minutes, I'm almost poking her awake to try and, just to get that confirmation that she's still alive. And that reassures the mom for a few minutes, but then that reassurance is very short-lived. So it's trying to balance that hope with the fear that they have. So it's how do you negotiate that balancing act? It's a bit like walking a tightrope. That's what pregnancy after loss is like. They can, they see where they've been, they see where they're going, they're up high, the wind is blowing, but they've nothing to do but put one foot in front of the other and try and get through it. And it is about strategies, and it is about trying to bond with their new baby, as Joann said, while remaining loyal to the baby that they've lost.
I love what I'm listening to right now. And it sounds like you're going to have this advice for people in your book. Would that be correct?
Yeah, every chapter at the end has strategies in dealing with what the topics in the chapter. And the book takes you through the pregnancy and through the early months of parenting. So it's very practical, and lots of voices from parents who've been through the journey are included in the book, which I think is really important.
Oh, yes, I agree. Well, it's fabulous. And where can people get your book?
It's on Amazon. Star Legacy Foundation sells them. One of the big things that I think is important for parents to know is what we do to help them understand they're still a parent to their deceased baby is we have them write. And they will say, oh, I can't write to this baby. I don't want them to know what I'm thinking. So we have them start writing to the baby that died about how sad they are and that they're pregnant now with a new sibling and that they wish this baby was going to be here too. And then as they get further into the pregnancy and this new baby's movements become stronger, then they start writing to the new baby about the missing sibling.
Oh.
You're always honoring that they're a parent to both babies, because family and friends want them to forget, you're pregnant now, why are you still talking about that other baby?
That's such a good thought for in-laws too, and for grandparents. I'm thinking myself supporting the lost child, and yeah, great ideas. Heidi, do you have any thoughts for them before we close?
I just like the fact that you're not minimizing the prior losses, and also the awareness you're building for the men. Because I think the men get really overlooked, and it's all about the woman's loss because she, carrying the baby and how is she doing, et cetera. But the reality is, the day that we get pregnant, we've lost the future we think we're going to have. And you're already planning every year of your life with your spouse and what it's going to look like. So, like you said, it's a loss for both.
I think this book just is incredibly amazing. And I just want to give everyone the name of it again: Different Baby, Different Story, Pregnancy and Parenting After Loss. And I think this would be such a gift to give to people that you've known have had a miscarriage and are still trying to, deal with another pregnancy. And for grandparents to read it, everyone, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all the parents that taught us.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And
thank you for bringing the voice out of all those parents and giving them a voice.
Yes.
And thanks everybody for watching and listening to this show today. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.